I'm Supriya Meli from the Daily Nexus, and this is Jonathan Abboud, former AS President.
Hi.
We'll be talking about the UC tuition increases, and Mr. Abboud will be answering some questions about the topic. So for the first question, how do you think increased UC tuition will affect the student body at UCSB?
I think it'll continue the negative effects that the tuition increases over the past 15 years have had. So the two that I think are the worst are one, taking out more loans to pay for the tuition, which later in life is a burden because it slows you down. You won't be able to buy houses earlier, start a family, or just have financial independence. Second one is one that directly affects people's academics actually, is if someone needs to get a job to pay for school at the same time as going to school, eventually they'll need more and more hours. If you're working 30 hours a week and taking 6 seat units, that takes a toll on someone's mental health and their academic abilities. They might have to show up tired to class every day and can't focus as much. That didn't used to be the case 30 years ago. You could work a summer job and pay tuition for the whole year. Now you have to work 30 hours a week and barely make it. So those are the two major ways it's going to affect students here. It's going to hurt them later in life, and it's going to hurt their academics while they're students.
Okay. So for the second question, do you think the state should take responsibility for UC liabilities like the pension funds?
Yeah, so if you look at the CSU budget, the CSU gets X amount of dollars and the UC gets X amount of dollars, or Y amount of dollars. Mm-hmm. On top of the CSU's cut of the budget, they get their pensions covered by the state. The UC, it came out of this weird deal in the 90s. I don't know the specifics right now, but they pay their pensions themselves. So technically the CSU is getting more money from the state than the UC by default because they get their pensions covered. So if you ever give the UC a budget increase, if you give both an equal amount of budget increase, ours is always lower.
Okay.
Because we have to cover our pensions ourselves. So yes, the state should 100% take liability for it, because I think we're the only state agency that doesn't get our pensions covered by the state.
Okay, and this is specific to all the UCs or just?
All the UCs, the UC system as a whole.
Okay. Yeah. And for the third question, what will the process be for the UC regents to confirm the changes or to change them?
So the 5-year tuition plan, this is how it'll happen. The discussion item will come up. Napolitano will go sit on the table that faces all the regents, because usually she sits on the same table with them. She'll present the plan, they'll ask her questions, they'll talk a little bit, and they'll pass by a unanimous vote. Usually the student regent will vote no. That's traditional. I don't know if it'll happen this year. Maybe 1 or 2 other regents will vote no. It'll pass in committee, and then the next day it'll get consented on by the entire board.
Okay.
So that's exactly what's going to happen. It's going to pass.
Okay. So you think it's likely that it's going to be confirmed?
Well, it's not likely or not. Nothing goes to the Board of Regents unless it's going to pass.
Okay.
There's never been anything that goes to the Board of Regents and then fails. It just doesn't happen.
Okay.
So if the UC president proposes something, it passes.
Okay.
So.
Okay. And if it's passed, what do you think the fund should go towards?
I think it should go towards exactly what Napolitano says it's going to go towards. And I think those needs that she's identified are actual needs on campus. So the first one, or for the state. So the first one is adding 5,000 new students to the UC from the state of California. Right now, there are 32,000 people who are guaranteed access to the CSU or the UC, but there aren't enough seats.
Who are these people who are guaranteed?
So the California Master Plan for Higher Education in 1960 said that the top 12.5% of high school students are guaranteed access to the UC, and the top 33% are guaranteed to the CSU. We have a 32,000 person gap right now of who we're serving and who we're supposed to be serving, and by 2025 that's going to be 1 million people in the state. So that'll add 5,000 new students to the UC. It means 5,000 new Californians will have a spot. They can get accepted. I think that's important because the state can't grow or progress without more people going to college. The second thing it should go to, so again, this is the actual plan, but I agree with if the tuition were to increase, this is what it should happen, is more faculty, so that we can have reduced class sizes and more classes offered so people can get a better education in a smaller class and they can graduate in 4 years because they don't have to constantly wait another year because the class they wanted didn't get offered or didn't have enough spots in it.
Mm-hmm.
The last thing is financial aid.
Mhm.
So a third of all money that comes into the UC is required to go to financial aid.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, a third will always go to financial. It's not a question. It's
Right.
going to.
Okay. And so the money from the funds would be used to get more faculty to accommodate the 5,000 students?
Essentially.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And for the last question, do you see further fund increases in the future, and when will it be in that?
So, the UC's in a weird spot. It has a mandate from the state that it needs to accept these students.
Mhm.
It needs to educate these students. And it has a responsibility to the people who go here already to teach them effectively.
Mhm.
But the state isn't giving it money. The state is starving the UC out of money. And the governor vetoed a $50 million increase to the UC budget in September that the state legislature passed. They gave 50 to the UC, 50 to the CSU, and the governor vetoed both of them.
Mhm.
So the UC is between a wall and a hard place right now because they need to provide better services to the students and accept more students. But the governor he's the one forcing this increase. It's not, the UC in an ideal world wouldn't have a tuition increase. I think, I'm confident that they don't sit up at night saying, I can't wait to raise tuition.
Okay.
It's the governor who is opposing any increases in the budget to the UC. He's given the UC 5% increase for the past 2 years and 4% increase this year and then next year.
Mm-hmm.
But those only cover inflation.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's a natural thing that we can't stop.
Mm-hmm.
So if we ever want to hire more faculty to recover from the billions of dollars cut
Mm-hmm.
in the past 10 years, I mean, when I went here, when I was a freshman, that was like the culmination of more than $1 billion worth of cuts to the UC.
Okay.
We've never got that money back.
And what year was that?
2010-11.
Okay.
The last tuition increase was the summer between 11-12 and 10-11.
Mm-hmm.
So we've never got that money back from the
Mhm.
state. They cut it during the recession, but we never got that back. So how are we supposed to continue to serve students if there's no money to do it? So it's the state's fault. This is 100% the state's problem. I mean, if you look at the graphs over the past 30 years,
Mm-hmm.
the UC used to get 6-7% of the state budget total.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a percent. If the budget increases, it just grow. And if the budget decreases, it should decrease.
Mm-hmm.
And now we get 2.8%.
Okay.
So it's a state disinvestment from higher education.
Right. And would you like to comment on the pay raises for some of the higher members of faculty?
Yeah, the pay raises was for the chancellors
Mhm.
and 3 chancellors, and one of them Chancellor Yang. And that's an easy issue to get mad about and to say like, well, if we just cut administrative salaries, we won't need to raise tuition. That's 100% incorrect. And I think the politicians in Sacramento and some students have latched onto this idea that, oh, like, let's cut all administrative salaries and we'll be fine, we won't need tuition increases. That's wrong. Like, it's a mathematical error.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at the amount of money let's say we cut the entire administration,
Okay.
like everything. Let's say we save $50 to $100 million, maybe let's say $200 million.
Mm-hmm.
That is still a lot lower. That's 10% of the $2 billion we need to fully operate
Mm-hmm.
the UC and fully serve the needs of students in California. So I think it's an easy one.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, at worst, it was a bad PR move for the UC to do that. It was stupid. Like, they should have thought a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, we're gonna raise pay and then we're gonna raise tuition. Strategically, it was incorrect.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't. The tuition increase would have happened whether or not.
Okay, so
The
you don't think
pay.
it's accommodating for the pay raises?
They aren't. I mean,
Mhm.
UC spends only 1% of its budget on senior management.
Okay.
I mean, there is administrative bloat. I'm not saying there isn't.
Mm-hmm.
Like there are sometimes too much administration on some campuses. Not UCSD. We have the lowest administrative overhead in the system.
Okay.
Berkeley is a great example of administrative bloat.
Mhm.
And there's also at the UC some positions that get a lot more money than equivalent positions in other state agencies. So
Mhm.
the best example is in the LA Times, Jerry Brown was quoted saying the UC Riverside chief legal counsel gets paid $200,000
Mm-hmm.
a year, and an equivalent lawyer gets paid $70,000 at the state in Sacramento. Yes, that needs to be corrected.
Mm-hmm.
Even if we correct for that,
Mm-hmm.
it's not going to change the fact that tuition increases are a direct result, and only a direct result, of state decreases, disinvestment from the UC. The
Okay.
state not giving the UC enough money to run effectively.
Okay. And is there a similar administrative bloat at the CSU systems or any of the other?
I have no
systems?
idea.
Okay.
I'm sure it's probably the
Mhm.
exact same situation, but I have no experience with them.
Okay. All right. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.